All right. So Maggie, say something in your microphone.
Chicken tenders.
Yep. All right. And I'll say something in your microphone.
Honey mustard barbecue.
We're just naming our
My
favorite
preferred
foods.
condiments for chicken tenders.
I preferred condiments for chicken tenders.
Uh,
All right. I don't think I silenced my phone on my computer, but I can at least do my phone. I'm not going to get up for the computer. Hopefully no one texts.
Don't
crossed.
text. Busy.
Alrighty.
Let's hit it.
Welcome back to Friends in Austin. Today I have two people on the show. Dave Perry, who's already been here. You can check out the archives to see his episodes. And Maggie Stevens, she's never been on before. Thanks for coming on, Maggie.
Thanks for having me.
And your boyfriend was on last time.
Yes.
So Derek, you and Derek are together.
Yes.
So we've talked about you a little bit.
You have.
And I'm just going to go ahead and ask you a couple of these icebreaker questions.
All right. Let's break the ice.
Let's break the ice. And if it's a shitty one, just be like, next.
Okay.
What's something you did as a child that your parents still retell the story about?
Oh. Okay. So my parents are very sexually active. They always have been,
Nice.
always will be. And we lived in a super, super old house. It was like 100 years old. None of the doors had locks on them. And so when my parents would want to get it on, they'd have to put a dresser in front of the door or something like that. Well, me, like being 3, I'd always know what they were doing. And the story my mom loves to tell is that I was 3 years old and my parents were having sex. My dad was on top of my mom and I got up on my dad's back and I go, "Giddy up, daddy," while they were having sex.
That would scar me for life.
Yeah, I don't remember it, but like hearing
What's in
it
there?
retold,
Deep down, it's in there.
it's in there. Yeah, yeah.
Make it a new sibling.
Yep.
Oh,
That was good. So-
Lord, that is fantastic.
I'm going to hit you with one, Dave, and then I'll go back around and give her another one and give you another one.
I mean, I'm still processing that.
I'm still processing it too.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Giddy up, Daddy.
Yeah.
Alrighty, here's yours, Dave.
Mm.
Would you rather experience the beginning of planet Earth or the end of planet Earth?
Oh my God. I think both would be chaotic and unpleasant.
Yeah.
I
Kind of question is
shit.
this? Yeah.
I would assume that
Pull your mic up a little closer.
I do. So I think the end of Earth is going to be because of people, more than likely, and then the beginning of Earth is, whatever. We'll just say chemical.
Mhm.
I think just for nothing else, I would like to be around other people in that time period. So I'm going to go with end, even though we're all probably killing
Ooh.
ourselves or each other.
It'd be
But
fun
yeah,
to see how everything wraps up.
I would like to know how that season ends. Yeah.
Yeah.
for
I don't
sure.
think we'll destroy it. I think it'll just get sucked into the sun.
I mean, I think they've mapped that out in terms of
Yeah.
the timeline on that, and it's in the like hundreds of millions, if not billions of
It's
years.
in the billions.
We're not.
Yeah.
We're gonna destroy
You
it
think we'll fuck
before
up
then.
first?
Business model
The
does
whole
not
rock?
sustain. Yeah, it's not going to happen.
All right. Maggie, in what way do you feel it's all about your childhood, Maggie. This episode's titled Maggie's Childhood.
Yeah.
In what way do you feel your childhood was happier than other people's?
Thank you for not asking me
I
that.
don't
You got
like-
to ride on your dad's back while he was banging your mom. That's a good way.
Oh man. Happier. I don't know. I honestly didn't have a super happy childhood, so
Well, there's too much sex.
well,
So much, dude.
it was just yeah. Let's skip that one.
Skip. I've seen that one before. That's the one I gave Derek the other day. It's hard to get these out. Which famous person have you met?
Me or him?
You.
Ooh. One time, when I was in LA when I was 18, I saw the lead singer of the Pussycat Dolls in H&M and we got a picture together.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah, it's not that cool. I'm not really big on like meeting famous people.
Yeah, me either. My sister met Aaron Paul at the Super Bowl when the Super Bowl was in Indianapolis when they were like in line. It
Yeah.
was kind of cool.
Yeah.
I have a quick story on that.
Okay.
Not your brother's story. That'd be weird if I had a story
My
about your
sister's,
brother's story.
yeah.
But your sister's story. I was also in LA. It was probably like 5 years ago, and I was at a Mexican restaurant in Echo Park, I think it's called, and I could hear someone a few tables over who had a very distinct kind of high pitched voice, and oh wow, as I'm telling the story, I'm blanking on her name right now. She was with Chris Pratt for a super long time. And
Anna Faris.
Anna Faris.
Yeah.
I said, God, that sounds like Anna Faris. And I turned around and it definitely was Anna Faris. Definitely not the kind of guy that would walk up to a celebrity. I mean, I don't not care about Anna Faris, but she's also not like, I need to go talk to Anna Faris. So just, we finished dinner, and then on the way out, my friend just like tapped her on the shoulders like, hey, just want to say hi. I'm a fan. Have a nice night.
Love your work.
And she grabs us and goes, it's Teddy's birthday. Sit down. I'm like, okay. So we sit down.
What was she on?
She was hammered. She was hammered. She orders us each a pitcher of margaritas right away. And I was like, okay.
Fuck yes.
So I was like, which one's Teddy? And she's like, Teddy's not here, but that's exactly why you're here. And we need to figure something out. Do you know the kitty cat dance? I was like, no. And she started explaining it. She's like, no, fuck it. This is a waste of time. Get up. Everyone at the table, get up. And then we were sitting on the patio, and then we go into the bar, and she tells the bartender to turn the music off. She stands on the bar, and she's like, everyone, shut the fuck up. Teddy's coming back. It's his birthday. We're doing the kitty cat dance. And then she just busted right into it. And it's like, when Teddy walks in, we're all doing this. Lick, 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 ear, 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 paw, 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 litter box, and just kept doing it until everyone on the bar was doing it. And then Teddy came in and we all did it. And it was,
So Teddy was real.
Teddy was real.
Okay.
It was a glorious moment. It was
fucking Teddy's birthday today.
Fucking Teddy's, but we're all doing this.
Who was Teddy? Did you ever figure that out?
I didn't get much context there. But yeah, she was lovely. I will say that. And she likes to party.
That's a really good celebrity meeting story. I feel like usually when you meet them, they're like a huge asshole to you or something, but she fucking brought you margaritas and taught you the kitty cat dance.
I was super thrilled about that. I think the idea of like meeting a celebrity that you like, or meeting a hero and then finding out that they suck.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Like how everyone feels about Ellen DeGeneres right now.
Oh, I didn't know that.
What happened with her?
Well, I'm trying to get all the details straight. Basically, people have always said she really sucks and she's super mean.
But she's friends with George Bush.
Yeah, that's the criteria for being a good person. She's just really mean. And then there were some, like, with all this sex trafficking stuff that's coming out right now, some of her producers or people that work for her were tied into that. And basically people are saying, like, she knew about what was going on and just dismissed it. But essentially she's canceled right now.
Just like a lot of people.
A lot of people are being canceled left and right.
So interesting, because like as soon as you say that, I feel my logical side and my human side kicking in of like, you're wrong because it's Ellen, and I know Ellen because
you know her, obviously.
Well, it's interesting. Like what we think we know about any celebrity or politician is literally the image that they put out there, or maybe the occasional paparazzi TMZ bullshit clip.
Mm-hmm.
But you say Ellen's a bad person, and I really do have a hard time imagining that or processing that, but then can also simultaneously realize it's entirely possible.
Right.
And I think that that's something that I've been noticing a lot. I mean, that's just a little microcosm of it, but this idea of like emotional truth, like I don't really know factually if that's true or false, but I truly believe that that's false. And then at that point, I could either be open to hearing your information or your perspective on it, and what happens a lot in 2020, especially online, is I feel so strongly about this based on almost nothing that fuck you, you're wrong. And then that spirals off into so many other things. I feel like I had an interaction recently where that happened, and it was with a really close friend of mine. And I was like, I've noticed you've been doing this a lot recently, where we'll be talking about something where either you will make a declarative statement or oppose a statement that was made, but very firmly in the opposition. And then in the course of making your point, you will acknowledge the fact that it is not a topic that you're well versed on. But based on your personal experience or common sense, this must be the truth. And then a complete refusal to hear other sides. Mm. And when I described that to him, he said, well, this is actually the byproduct of a philosophy that originates in the tech space, but I think is used elsewhere, called strong opinions loosely held. And it's basically this idea that's mainly used in hypothetical scenarios, like we're software engineers and we're trying to solve a really complicated problem. To avoid indecision and in the effort of potentially making progress, I'm going to make a swing for left field and dig in hard on something that I don't have strong reason to believe. And then the two outcomes here is either it works or it doesn't. But since I didn't have a dog in the fight to begin with, because it wasn't something that I claimed to know about, there's no real consequence for me.
I know what you're saying.
In a hypothetical scenario, I could see that working, maybe being frustrating, but if everyone's on board with that philosophy, but to engage with people in normal everyday life and to not announce that, like, just so you know, I'm going to engage with you with this philosophy that's kind of like almost anarchistic from a conversational standpoint, like maybe even from a devil's advocate standpoint, like whatever you say, I'm going to just strongly disagree with you and then fucking dig my heels into it because I want to be right about something, or it's something that I just truly believe. Ellen is a nice person. I've seen her on TV for 30 years. She went through struggles as a gay woman. I liked Finding Dory. There's no way that she's a bad person. But the second part of that philosophy is that you're supposed to, you acknowledge that you're implementing that philosophy. You pick your path and you dig in, but then you're also supposed to put as much effort and time into trying to prove yourself wrong.
Yeah.
By not only being open to what other people say, but like you should specifically seek out facts that could or would contradict the thing that you believe in. So like in the context of what I was talking with my friend is we were talking about the Aunt Jemima issue.
What's the Aunt Jemima issue?
Oh.
So PepsiCo is the parent company of Quaker Oats. Quaker Oats owns Aunt Jemima. Yeah. Which is a brand that's over 100 years old. And they have had the Aunt Jemima brand and the Aunt Jemima logo that entire time. It has evolved over time, but it has always been, I'll just start by saying Aunt Jemima's face. Historically speaking, it is very clear that it's based off of the Mammy caricature. And so the day that this happened, PepsiCo announced that they're changing the brand, removing the logo, and they're probably not even going to stick with the Aunt Jemima name. It's going to be like Quaker Oats syrup or something like that, because that's also a super established name.
Boring.
Then immediately you have this emotional truth eruption happen where it's like, I grew up with Aunt Jemima. My kids love Aunt Jemima syrup. Therefore, you're somehow tainting my life by being a snowflake and having knee-jerk leftist reactions to something that doesn't matter. Yeah. And then you have other people who are speaking about the Jim Crow era and mammies, and why would you give a fuck about who's on your syrup? Is this the hill you want to die on? So I was talking to my friend about it, and he was very much of that mindset of just, this isn't even like, there are bigger fish to fry. Why are we even having this conversation? Who gives a shit about what's on your syrup? But he also acknowledged that I've never heard of mammies, and I know almost nothing about the Jim Crow era. But I still firmly believe that this is a snowflake cuck move and a waste of time. So that's a hard juxtaposition for me to wrap my mind around, where there is verifiable facts and historical record of why a huge segment of our population finds this offensive and why they would like it changed. That you easily have access to because you have a phone and Google. It's not a matter of opinion, like the mammy is a real thing and where it comes from. And
I had not heard of it.
Oh, it is.
So let me just tell you, guess what I have called my grandma for 27 years? Mammy. That's a common thing that we call our grandmas in Indiana. When all of this stuff happened, my brother and I messaged her. We were like, hey, we love you. We had no idea that it has this underlying meaning. We don't feel comfortable calling you this anymore. It's kind of, my other cousins are like, no, we're still doing it. Yeah. She doesn't want us to change the name because she thinks that represents a strong woman and a strong, like, matriarch of a family. And so I was just visiting my family. I just got back on Monday from Indiana, and we had this big talk. I was like, I really can't do it. I can't call you that anymore.
Yes. Okay.
What the fuck?
So, and I'll answer the question, but exactly what she's talking about, I think, draws a very strong parallel to how people feel about the Confederate flag, where it is possible.
We're comparing a syrup thing to the Confederate flag, though.
But wait. So
the meanings are, they hold the same weight.
So
I don't know
so mammies are specifically childbearing slaves or post-slave era slaves who were not able to get their freedom because of things like indentured servitude, or they are completely illiterate, or they've been physically broken, so they end up staying on the property anyways. And someone like a mammy is, what
about a pappy?
I think have you seen Django Unchained?
Yeah, I love that movie.
So like Samuel L. Jackson would be the kind of the equivalent of a pappy, who's like a old-timey Black person who I think in that movie is a slave, but the mammy specifically comes out of the Jim Crow era, so it's post-slavery, but it's still it's this fake caricature of the idea of a freed slave who literally knows no purpose in life without slavery, is thankful for the opportunity and loves her slave owner family more than her own family because she's ashamed and embarrassed of them.
Yes.
So this is verifiable down to the coining of the term.
100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did this transition into people of all colors calling their grandparents or
because it's
Mammy and Pappy?
Because it's an affectionate, like Mammy, the Mammy caricature is supposed to make you feel good as a white person.
Yes.
It is a post-slavery thing to explain or depict to everyone outside of the South or even off of a plantation that like, we're past this. Everything's fine. We're living in harmony. Our Mammy's part of the family. We love her. Like she takes care of my children. I would trust her with my children's life, but it's also very much so rooted in like, this is a subservient dog that we used to own and now chooses to be here, but also because she doesn't know her place in the world without us. So that Aunt Jemima is a Mammy, and you can even see the literature from originally Quaker Oats 108 years ago who own it. It wasn't a problem 108 years ago because they were going along with the whole reason it was created. So we're like, yeah, I mean,
at the time it was good branding.
Yes, because that is what your grandma's probably made breakfast for you before. It's the same thing. It's supposed to give you this like creature comfort feeling, but it's all about perspective. So you know Mammy as your relationship with your grandma. There are plenty of people who feel a true sense of pride in the Confederate flag because it represents their childhood or their family still lives in the South. It's all of the positive things that they associate with it while completely blocking off anything that had no direct negative impact on their life. So while it seems like a huge jump between the Confederate flag and Aunt Jemima, it's literally rooted in the exact same shit.
Same thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So bringing it full circle, it's weird for me to be like, I like syrup. This seems really dumb. I don't know anything about what you're talking about in terms of Mammies and Jim Crow laws and everything, but it feels dumb. So it is dumb. And we're not, case closed. And I feel like that's a lot of discourse online these days. And what bothered me is that when I started having that discourse with my friends and people I've known my whole life, I was like, I need to have some aspect of control in terms of the integrity of the conversations I'm having with the people I love. I understand that in a common thread, I'm not there to change anyone's mind. I'm not looking for logic and reason. But if I can't have a sane conversation with someone that I trust and love and have known my entire life because of this strong opinions held loosely, or just general, maybe it's the byproduct of social media and this is how people are getting used to communicating with each other, but I hate it.
Maybe it's all a PR stunt by Quaker.
Could be. Yeah.
Someone internally was like, we should cause a ruckus about this.
Yeah. So, Mammies. But yeah, after I'll send you the literature on it. There's literally museums that are dedicated
I won't
to
read it. I believe you.
Sure, no.
I'm certainly not going to read it.
Why not?
You should read it.
Why?
Just to learn about it.
You just told me about it.
Well, I mean, hypothetically, there's a lot of interesting answers to that.
Yeah.
So hypothetically, you shouldn't trust me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like you said, it's not the hill I want to die on. I mean, like, I'll just take your word.
Oh, no. But like, so just for the sake of conversation. So a good example of this is a lot of people learned about Juneteenth for the first time this year because of President Trump's choice to have a rally on Juneteenth in Tulsa, Oklahoma, which is the site of one of the most horrific KKK-led hate crimes in maybe the history of the world, but certainly the history of the country. So having a political rally for a candidate that pretty much is the embodiment of bigotry,
racism,
pretty insensitive
misogyny.
when you could pick any other day. So, but the reason that his choice being controversial and then learning why it's controversial is a way that many people in our generation have learned about Juneteenth for the first time. I also know I have a few Black friends that learned about Juneteenth from watching the show Blackish.
It's funny. I learned about it because it was on my Google Calendar as a holiday, and I was like, the fuck is this? So I Googled it, but then all that shit later came out.
So it's interesting when people say things like, again, with the Aunt Jemima thing and the Confederate flag, like, get over it, slavery was 400 years ago. You know, it's ancient history. But then there are so many people in our parents' generation, and certainly our generation, who aren't even familiar or even fucking aware of things that were actively happening in our grandparents' lifetime, many of which grandparents are still alive, that has long-term impacts on a cultural and socioeconomic standpoint, specifically for the African-American community, but also for women and gays and like these things, when they happen 2 or 3 or 10 generations ago, have lost lasting impacts. So it's weird to say slavery's over 400 years ago, get over it. That being said, I don't know a fucking thing about anything that's happened before I've been alive.
Yeah.
That's one of those strong opinions loosely held. I don't get it. So point being, in that scenario, if it's pointed out to you that like it might be worth your while, not to prove you wrong and me right, or you're a fucking idiot for not knowing about mammies, but just like the information, which is factual, not opinion based, is available for you. And just like when you learned about Juneteenth, did you go, well, that was a waste of time?
No.
So same thing with just like reading an article about the origin of mammies and its context within the Jim Crow era. It's only going to provide you with information and a perspective on history. So
yeah,
I would encourage you to not just take my impassioned talk about it and read about it. I mean, I would like to do that with, there is so much I personally don't know about. And you also don't know the things you don't know.
Exactly.
And I think that that's what all conversation should be, is that like, it's okay to have a strong opinion. And if it's loosely held, be open to the fact that you might be wrong, misinformed, whatever adjective you want to use. And then everyone's better, including yourself, if you come out on the other side of that interaction with information. Like there's nothing wrong with that. And I feel like certain people believe that they're going to have their conservative card revoked, or if a liberal becomes open-minded to some of the benefits of owning a gun, all of a sudden they're going to get kicked out of the parade. It's a lot.
Can you remember the last time you got in an argument with someone over something like this?
Yeah.
What was it?
I got in an argument with Derek about addressing his white male privilege. We got in a big fight about it. Garrett actually had to come outside and
You're so wise. Here.
Please. Thanks.
Hold on. Cheers, guys.
Yeah.
It's like
cheers.
Corporate sponsor. Our corporate sponsor dictates
lunch,
that we
liquid lunch. Yeah. So that's something that I was having a really hard time with when all of the Black Lives Matter stuff was going out, because I was consuming information like crazy, confronting my own whiteness, confronting my own my non-racist background when I should have been an anti-racist, and he was not doing that himself. He wouldn't read the articles I sent him.
Sure.
And not because he wasn't interested in learning about it, but he thought he knew you know how he is. He thinks he knows everything.
He does know everything.
Love you.
Love you, but he thinks he knows everything, and he just wasn't open to really learning about it. And so when perhaps I was coming off a little bit attacky whenever I was talking to him, because I was just so angry. I was like, how the fuck can you not be paying attention to this? And so we got in a big kerfuffle about that.
Where did it go?
I've been sending him podcasts. He's now listening to podcasts.
He's been sleeping in the dog cage. She'll let him in. She'll let him out maybe in a week.
Yeah.
So I recently was privy to an exchange between two people that I like, who have pretty opposing viewpoints, and the topic of Black Lives Matter came up, which evolved into white privilege, which I think this small microcosm of a dialogue is reflective of a situation that we're in, where it behooves all of us.
I love that you just use that word. That has been my word of the last 2 weeks.
Behooves?
Behoove.
Boom, get it?
Yes.
I'm all about vocabulary. I'm a big fan. So I started with strong opinions loosely held, but then during the correction of the loosely held point is, don't go, if you're in a position to broaden someone's horizon or educate them or change their perspective, do it in the least. Don't try to add the least amount on top of the information itself to avoid tainting the information.
Yeah.
So in that exchange that I witnessed, this friend of mine right away this guy's basically said white privilege doesn't exist. And then the retort to that was, you should read this book, White Fragility.
I'm reading that.
Okay. Which is great, but you have to know your audience.
Yes.
So if someone straight up says, I don't believe in white privilege, and then your recommended area to educate yourself, you have to
adapt
be aware,
the audience.
but be aware of how that person's going to respond to the name of a book. Even the term white privilege, just from a branding perspective, not great. Defund the police, from a branding perspective, not great. Because if you want to propose a societal changing concept or an educational theme that is representative of the entire cultural undertow that we're all living in, make sure it's presented in a way that it's not just fully embraced by the people who already believe it. You need to present it in a way.
That's a good point. I mean, otherwise
Yeah.
you're preaching to the choir.
Sure.
What's the
Yeah.
point?
So if you say I don't believe in white privilege, and I was like, well, you should dedicate 10 hours of your life reading a book that basically says fuck white people.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I get that that is very descriptive of what the book is about. If this person is expressing their white fragility in this sense, don't fucking rub it in their face.
Right.
So I'm not saying don't recommend that book, but work up to it.
Yeah. My feedback in that conversation was that I don't know how to approach men with conversation topics that I feel passionately about, which I did not like that comment. But
yeah, I thought you were saying that you felt that.
No, that's what they told me. They were like, you need to learn how to address men about these types of conversations.
So like speak when spoken to because you're a woman.
I don't know what it meant.
That's exactly what it meant. Yeah, I think all of our discourse is being challenged, and the existence and now prevalence of social media has a lot to do with it, but these conversations can still happen and do happen in person. I just think the existence of social media and especially during a time like right now where we're all primarily some degree of lockdown, quarantined or whatever, I think it's fair to say that most of us are spending more times on our devices than probably ever before.
It's true.
And so, which means that this level of discourse is probably occurring more than ever before, not just because of screen time, but because it's an election year, because of how objectively shitty things have been this year.
We're learning a lot. We have more time to spend learning about shit.
Or you have more time to dig the fuck into your standpoints that BLM are terrorists and white privilege doesn't exist and Trump should be on Mount Rushmore. So like, yeah. And I think that if you have a regular conditioning of this is how I engage people online, it inevitably spills over into how I'm going to engage with people in real life.
Right.
Which is not good.
Yeah.
So
we should watch that. On that note, we might as well go ahead.
Oh,
and
yes.
watch this.
Yeah,
That's
the
a great
Alex Jones
segue.
video.
So I have not seen this, but
yeah, I haven't seen it either.
Okay, so I'll say what it is. It's Alex Jones. He runs InfoWars. He's out of Austin. It's a far right wing. I don't even know how you want to describe it. It's pretty crazy. He's full of shit. He knows he's full of shit, but he knows his audience believes him, and that's how he gets views. Anyway, the greenbelt started making it to where the greenbelt is a free place you can go in Austin, and swim and stuff like that. When there's water. In August, there's not really water, so I don't know why the fuck anyone would want to make a reservation for the greenbelt in August anyway. It's bone fucking dry. But anyway,
Idiots.
So there's reservations, and then there's people there that are like making sure people have reservations, and so Alex Jones comes, and he has issue with that. So
Sure.
I'm gonna play this video.
because he's a fucking patriot.
You can probably see it from there. I'll try to.
Good old tweeter.
Well, the past, I've been coming here since I was in high school and college, and now you guys use your COVID hoax to like set a checkpoint up so you can take over the parks and start charging. It's unconstitutional. This is not even a city ordinance. This is a illegal power grab of the people's greenbelt, and it's time to free Austin. So are you guys volunteers for the city of Austin? Who are you, masked man?
I'm a lifeguard for Barton Springs.
You're a lifeguard for Barton Springs, now part of the criminal power grab. This is outrageous criminal activity.
Oh my God.
Seizure of the
It's a bunch of
infrastructure
college
Austin.
kids standing around. This is
Poor
outrageous
kids.
criminal activity.
Garbage. My wife came here this morning when you cult member kooks showed up here, and you asked her, where's her reservation? Her reservation is that we live in a free country. We live in America. I call for everybody out there watching.
Sounds like something you would see at a Texas Roadhouse on a Friday night. Where's my reservation?
COVID-19 is a power grab hoax. COVID-19.
Yeah, girl. Yeah.
He goes, what is that, your IQ, your middle finger?
Nice.
What a fucker.
The APD told him, no, it's not enforceable. You can go on in.
Okay.
Wow.
That dude is fucking garbage.
I have to say, he cracks me up. I kind of love him. Like, I don't agree with him, but he's just so funny. I'm glad he exists.
Okay, so on paper and in this
We
scenario,
don't need people like that.
but he has a captive audience of millions of people
but
who see that shit and get
That's what
fired up
gives
about it.
people
Like,
the ammo to feel like
Yes.
they can go out and be racist and to not wear a mask. It's because of people like him.
Yeah, I don't like that he said COVID was a hoax, but again, I see him as a joke. But some people don't see him as a joke.
millions
Millions
of
of
people
people
don't see
don't.
him as a
Yeah.
joke.
I agree that
that's
you
a problem.
shouldn't need a reservation for the greenbelt, but I mean, it's like, just don't go if you're worried. And also, why the fuck would you go right now? It's August.
I think maybe they have started doing this after that video from the one asshole kid that pushed the what do they call it here? The park ranger in the water, because it was so crowded and there was no way to control it. So they're probably trying to prevent shit like that from happening again. It's like the city is doing its best, you know? It's doing its best. We actually just cut funding, $100 million of funding for the police today. So that's huge.
So felons are going to take over the city.
Oh, God.
All women are going to be raped 24/7,
Yep.
just so you know. That's guaranteed.
I'll be honest, I don't agree with cutting funding for the police because, I mean, you just need them, you know?
Well,
I mean,
okay, but hold on. There's nuance here.
There's
yeah.
nuance.
Let's
Doesn't
talk about
solve
that.
racism. You
No,
know?
not at all.
No.
But she did, I mean, there's a big difference between
Well, we're
cutting
gonna
funding
reallocate it.
and defunding.
Yeah.
So in the scenario of, we know this for sure, you drive down fucking Riverside and you see it, you can walk 4 blocks and find someone that is out in public that has debilitating mental illness that they're dealing with that easily can and has resulted in scenarios that endanger other people or themselves. In that scenario, I would like to know that there is a well-funded organization that can be reached with the greatest of ease, like 911.
Social service of some sort.
There is a homeless man trying to kill himself or maybe harm someone else in the middle of 6th Street, and that the response isn't 3 guys with guns who have never had any sort of encounter.
Yeah, and I've had this conversation on the podcast. I don't disagree with that. But yeah, I mean, I think you need more training, better training. If you want safe and well-educated police officers, you got to pay them right.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
And I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
I just think that in this scenario, I have a hard time wrapping my head around the argument of, so it's not just that, I'm glad that you said reallocated, because it's not just a matter of like, your budget was $1 billion and now it's 900 million, justice is served. If there's a specific plan about we're reallocating this money to contribute to a solution.
And they should talk about that more.
Yes.
They need to rebrand the entire
That's what I'm saying.
idea of
Yes.
defunding
It's a
the
fucking
police.
like I
Yes.
myself, even the first time I heard it, was like, and there's all cops are bastards as well. These are rallying cries.
Yeah.
Like, of course that's not true.
So what do you
Can we talk about rebranding everything? Like when I was learning about the primary runoff election and the Texas Railroad Commissioner, I was like, Skip, who cares about railroads? The Texas Railroad Commissioner controls the oil and gas industry in Texas. Effectively, they have more power to help get our climate crisis under control than the president or the vice president does, because they control so much. But we're going to call it a Texas Railroad Commissioner, and we're not going to do any sort of education to teach people on what this position actually does.
That is news to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know about that either.
Yeah. America does need some rebranding.
I think we do this. We do this strategically, I think.
Yeah.
Because we don't want people to know. We only want the people that are in the circle to be able to vote for these things. Or we tick the name that we like the best.
Sure.
So what about this? Alex Jones for president.
Yeah.
Fuck you. Okay,
Hunger
Kanye
Games
West for president.
Yeah, I mean, like, so for other people listening who are not familiar with Alex Jones, like, that is not an anomaly.
No, not
like,
at all.
there's a video from his own show, and it's not like taken out of context or something. It's literally a video of him in early COVID. It's interesting to hear him talk about this as a hoax, because during this video, which is in like April, he's like in his studio, he's all fucking sweaty and fired up. He's like, all right, I've been thinking about it. I've been looking around my neighborhood, and I've decided that if our food supplies run out because of the libtards and Democrats ruining our supply chain, I'll fucking eat my neighbor. I've looked at him.
Yes.
Are you kidding
I'll
me?
string him up. He goes on for 5 minutes about, I was like, I've looked at the meat segments. You got some good thighs or whatever. I don't give a shit. My kids aren't going hungry. They are not going hungry. I didn't start this, but I will end it. I'm a patriot. My superpower is truth, and I'm being honest. I mean, it's like, he's fucking crazy. And like,
his wife used some
Yes.
of that shit to get custody of his children.
because he claimed during his divorce hearings, when talking about custody, that all of InfoWars is an act. She was claiming it's pretty clear why he shouldn't have custody rights. He's a fucking nut job. So his lawyers say, like, so he is adamant that Sandy Hook was fake. None of those kids died.
Not one of
Can
those.
you imagine being a parent of one of those children and this huge platform celebrity pisses on the memory of your murdered child at every
Fuck
given
that.
opportunity? And he does it for ratings. But it's so interesting to see when that intersects with real life. When fighting to have custody of his kids, he's literally said, like, not literally, the context of what he said is, everything I say in InfoWars, which millions of people listen to, and I use to rile up the farthest segment of the right, is a lie. I'm a totally normal guy. I deserve 50% rights to my kids.
Well, yeah, he's got to say that.
I think it is a lie. I think he is full of shit.
Then he should. I just feel like there should be some. I'm all for freedom of speech or whatever, but like context matters. I don't know if there's like some. I don't know. I don't know the solution to that, but I can guarantee that there aren't. He had a fucking rally in Austin. There were a lot of people there. Yes. Those people aren't like, this guy's hilarious. This is fun. I love that show. I get high with my friends and watch it.
They believe in what he says.
Exactly. And that has consequences. That has real world consequences, whether it's a joke to him or not. It does make a difference. So yeah, there's something about that needs to be taken into account.
So I grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, specifically in a suburb called Brookfield, which unfortunately has been making headlines frequently during COVID. It was the first suburb. It was literally the canary in the mine of Karen protests of like these people literally getting together with signs that say, I need a haircut. That happened on
I've seen that.
That was Blue Mound Road in Brookfield, Wisconsin, 4 miles from the house I grew up in. So Milwaukee, Wisconsin is the most segregated city in the country, and it's been that way since like the 50s or 60s. If that exact same thing happened in the south side of Milwaukee, holy shit. The response would be cataclysmic. And it wouldn't be, I need a haircut. It would be, we're dying and no one's paying attention. Yep. But even if it was, and especially if it was the I need a haircut thing, the response would be, look at these fucking animals. I can't believe that they're protesting about something so frivolous. So another thing that has come up recently from my hometown is this. So all of these schools that are opening up again right now, most of them are having votes with the teachers, but specifically the families of, do you want to go all remote, half and half, or full-time in?
Hold on, let's do it. What's your opinion on schools opening?
So my mom's a 4th grade teacher, so I have a lot of opinions
on
this.
Or closed? For now, just open or closed.
They should not be going back to school in person. Okay. They should not.
I agree.
The fact that my mom is like considering writing her will because she doesn't know.
That's fucked up.
And she only gets 14 days of paid leave if someone in the school is infected and they have to quarantine 2 weeks, but then someone else gets infected 2 weeks later. Like, what the? I have a lot of opinions on this.
Okay, well, go ahead. It's a nightmare. I mean,
it is a fucking nightmare. But then I think about it on the flip side too, of like my sister who's going to be a junior in high school, and she did not do well with e-learning the last 9 weeks. Like she needs to be in with teachers. But we can't put all these students and these teachers at risk, especially for how underpaid teachers are. The fact that states are going to deny funding for schools if they don't go in person, that's fucked up.
That is fucked up.
So fucked up. Like my mom's
They're trying to keep their institutions alive.
They are. Well, and fucking Betsy DeVos. Oh.
You mean Karen?
Yeah.
Queen Karen.
Enemy Karen number one. Only wants these private schools. And so she will do anything to cut public funding. It is so fucked up. I feel for the teachers. I feel for the students. And I feel for the parents that have to go back to work and rely on school to be basically their like free childcare for the day. I feel for everyone. There's not a single solution for this.
It is tough.
But if we're gonna like say, okay, let's do absentee voting because it's not safe to go to the polls, but we're gonna send 600 4th graders into a school, that's weird.
That are gonna go home to their families.
Families, and my mom has colleagues that are like caretakers of their elderly parents, and they have to move out for the next 9 months and have to separate from their own child, and live alone, quit their job, and take care of their like elderly parent because they can't be around their child who will be in school every day.
So someone who does not agree with me and probably with you was ranting recently about how COVID is not a big deal. and like also specifically made the point that like the thing that's killing people is like the pneumonia that they contract after they get COVID. It's not the COVID, so COVID's not a big deal. And I immediately pointed out like that's literally like saying AIDS and HIV is not a big deal because it's the pneumonia that kills you.
It's not you getting your throat slit, it's the blood loss.
It is the blood loss. Yeah, that's true. Your inability to coagulate is something you need to address. So I really go out of my way to think about things, to get out of my perspective, to not have these strong opinions, loosely held type thing. And I do have to agree that in its essence, in its core, on paper, especially when you look how a lot of other completely developed countries have responded to this, it in and of itself is not a big deal. The disease itself is not a big deal. Our complete ineptitude to deal with it or even acknowledge that it's real is a huge fucking problem. And people die because of that. It's not like ineptitude gets in you and stops your heart, but it is the root cause. So, you know, it's right. Again, instead of being like, here's the fucking Oxford Medical Dictionary, read it and get back to me, or you don't believe in white privilege, here's white fragility. That's not the way to approach it. It behooves us to acknowledge, like acquiesce on that point that, yes, at its core, the disease itself, when you look at the entire biological and disease
just the death rate
history of what we've gone through as a civilization, yes, in and of itself, not a big deal. But like with the school thing, this feels like a weird Twilight Zone episode where we are hell bent on we are our own worst enemy in this scenario. I can't believe we talked about this in fucking April when I was on here. I did not think that we would be still experiencing it at this level.
It's going to get worse.
5 million cases. I mean, the school thing is already happening. There's already 2 weeks of data that we have of hundreds and hundreds of kids going into quarantine, crowded hallways where none of the kids are wearing masks.
Yep.
This was so easy to predict, but if you need to get punched in the face with facts, it's happening. Let's not wait until the whole experiment catches on fire. Yep. Take your sample size and run with it. Like I get the thing that you were saying in terms of there are certain people, especially those with kids, and I don't have kids, so I can't fully relate, but like the day-to-day inconveniences and even stressors and financial burdens are really way heavily on people, but that has an influence on the way that you view bigger picture things. So when someone says, you know, there's a huge financial burden or she doesn't learn as well in a virtual setting, I don't want to be a, you know, absolutist, everything's binary, but like, okay, so if this is a financial burden, what's the financial burden going to be of a life-threatening disease? Or what's the financial burden going to be when your wife can't work anymore or when her workplace is shut down because most of her coworkers have kids and 50% of her coworkers get infected? Like, it's not that hard to think about the financial ramifications down the road if we just open the fucking floodgates on this.
So on the note of Corona, Maggie, how's your Corona life and situation going since it started?
I have personally had a good experience. I have enjoyed the quarantine.
Suffer with everyone.
I know. Well, so here's the thing. Luckily, I don't live alone. Luckily, I live in a house that has a backyard. And that has really been a huge saving grace for me. And then we also took in 2 roommates, Dave and Garrett, who were on the show previously. So my house is kind of like a frat house right now, but it keeps things fun. I'm fortunate, I got my job still steady. And I really enjoyed being at home, spending time with people and working on house projects. Now, I know a lot of people are not as fortunate, and I have a lot of close friends that, you know, lost jobs, live alone, did not handle this very well, super isolated, and I super, super feel for them, but I am, knock on wood, very lucky.
And there's 4 of you in this house?
Yes,
how do you feel about having that many boys in the house?
So it was originally supposed to be like a short-term thing, which I was totally cool with. And I love them. I mean, they're awesome. My little brother also lives with us too. So it's all people I love and care about.
Right, so it was 5 people.
So 5 people total, 4 boys plus me.
Okay.
But I myself, and I told everyone this when we all started living together, I was like I got depression pretty bad. I got social anxiety. I got regular anxiety. I got all this shit. And like, most days, I just want to be alone. And it's really hard for me when you guys are all congregating and you're having fun and you're talking to each other. Even though I know that I can quietly exit and go sit in the room by myself, I still am so anxious that you guys are thinking that I don't want to spend time with you.
Yeah.
And I don't like that. That's what I don't like. But it's my own mental shit. Like, they're wonderful. I love them. I love having them around. They add so much to Derek's life, and he is so much happier having them around. And I mean, if not for them, I'm like scared of what would have happened to him. He probably would have gotten super depressed. But yeah, it's hard for me because it's just not the type of person I am. I like to be social when I want to be social.
So how does it translate to COVID? Like, do you guys have specific, do you have a COVID agreement in terms of like, we need to keep a tight bubble?
Yes. And luckily, we pretty much all only hang with the same people.
Yeah, I had Jeremy on the podcast. He calls it Quaranteams.
Quaranteams, yeah.
We got our Quaranteams.
Yeah, and then, you know, my brother works for In-N-Out, so he's going to work all the time and exposed. And like anytime something like a little bit of exposure came, like I'm going and get a test. Like I've gotten a test. So we try and keep it like super limited. My brother's just the only one because he has to go to work all the time.
But they monitor that very closely, and they notified him immediately once when he's like,
They
you were around a person who tested positive, you need to go home, you need to get a test, you need to stay away from people. And luckily
none of us, none of us had it. So that was good.
Yeah.
But did he not work for 2 weeks or something?
He got 2 weeks off.
Oh.
Paid or unpaid?
I don't know, actually, because that happened right before I left for Indiana, because it was like the day before I was supposed to leave. He tells me this, and I'm like, holy fuck, I'm supposed to go see our family tomorrow. Now I gotta go find a rapid test.
Yeah.
But how is that not like something? I understand that there's no specific precedence for it, but how is that not like a workman's comp
I don't know, man.
type thing?
It
Like,
should be,
especially in a scenario where the alternative is that not only
but not
do you
other
continue
companies
working,
are doing that.
What's bullshit?
It is bullshit. Like, that's the thing that my mom will face. Like, if she gets exposed, she will get 14 days of paid leave, but that is it. That's it.
So I get that you can't remote work at In-N-Out Burger.
No.
But
Yeah.
but then you need
Flip
to
those burgers virtually.
But then that's part of the equation then. Then if obviously the owner of that franchise location or corporate as a whole needs to be open to make money, but then you can't just have this one segment of this that works for you. You need to factor in the fact that, okay, now your frontline workers who, no offense to your brother, everybody probably gets paid like shit and probably treated pretty poorly. I know that actually In-N-Out
he makes pretty good money.
in the industry. I think that they're actually the best.
They are, yeah.
But still respectfully, like he's interacting with way more people.
Service.
Yeah. And all like, and it just the risk of interacting with people and like handing stuff off and everything. Also, these people are around, our food. There is a lot of sensitive parts of this equation. There should be considerations for that.
Yeah.
So if he is, first of all, they should pay for his testing. If
they didn't,
that's
nonsense.
It's fucking nonsense.
Dave walked out.
Even if
my mom was like, well, I got this bill because he's still on my parents' insurance. And when I was there, my mom was like, I got this bill for his test. Shouldn't that be covered by his employer? And I was like, no one is really covering for that shit. Like, they're like, oh, whatever, you're on your own.
I guarantee there's a specific equation that exists on a spreadsheet somewhere at any company, but In-N-Out that says, what's your brother's name?
Jake.
When Jake works 5 hours and we pay him $18 an hour, it is something good for fast food.
Yeah.
We make $3,200 off of his average 5-hour shift. Fuck you. If you can't financially justify, if for no other reason than if we don't keep him healthy, he can't keep working those 5-hour shifts to make us those $3,200 a pop. Like, however you need to justify it, but don't do that. Just
it's just a rare time.
Beings,
it's like, make less profit. I mean, I know they're all already making less profit because people are probably buying less food, but it's like, as long as your company can stay afloat, like priority number one should be treating people well. And if everyone did that right now and like focused on health and treating people well, it's like, we can make less money this year. Maybe we don't even make money this year, but will our company still exist in a year? Yeah, give it time.
Almost every other country did that.
Yeah.
And they're all doing pretty great,
Mm-hmm.
Like my friend that she lives in Switzerland, and Switzerland is pretty much all the way open now because they took it very seriously in the beginning. They don't have a lot of cases.
Yeah.
I'm just like, is it because it's something I wonder because, we have federal law and we have state law, but we give the state so much power. And something I was talking to with someone that I work with that works in the Netherlands, they were like, well, how come every state is different? Why don't you all shut down? And I'm like,
Well, that's part of America. That's
it
part
is
of
part of America,
Yeah,
but like, what if we got and just said, as one country, the United States, we are shutting down, and every state runs like that? Is it because we let all of the states have their own power, and like Texas and Florida and Arizona, for example?
I don't know. And the thing is, it was early on, like no one knew how much it would spread. And almost it's like an experiment too. It's like, well, one state can do it this way, one state can do it that way. I felt that would give us more data as to like what's effective and what's not.
Sure.
And then we could take
now
a
the
correct...
CDC doesn't have that data.
Yeah.
That oh my God, that whole thing. Again, we're our own worst enemies. That's fucking insane. But like, to your point, we do have the data.
Mhm.
Like, we get it.
Mhm.
We opened up too early. These are just like, you can just look at raw numbers. It's not how you feel about it or the fact that I don't care that the numbers are low. My grandma got sick, therefore this is serious. You strip out all of the human emotion aspect of it, and you can just see transmission rates skyrocket during these key time periods. You can see it after the amount of fucking idiots that just rage their balls off during these huge like Memorial Day
Right.
Pool parties and stuff like that. Like, this is very mathematical when you strip it down. And so we should be able to, in the same way, look at the data without your emotions and just say, okay, we get it. Let's respond accordingly. And I get that there's repercussions, but there's also repercussions to not doing
Exactly.
that, which is dying. And also there are
And
financial
economy,
repercussions
yes.
of not taking this seriously. So I just, the whole thing fucking drives me nuts.
It's tough. I mean, yeah, hindsight's 2020. I mean, if you looked back, we should have done a hard shutdown.
This is the hindsight year.
Yes,
Oh my
hindsight year, dude.
We should trademark this shit
Yes,
right now.
yes.
Before you
Hindsight
release
year.
this episode, let's hop on LegalZoom.
Yes.
Amazing. So I think face masks is a good representation of this in terms of which states make it mandatory and which not. And then even back to Wisconsin, law enforcement in Wisconsin, specifically in Milwaukee County, have openly said, like, we will not, there is a face mask mandate, and the sheriff's office has said, we will not enforce this because of their opinions. They are not medical experts.
You can even go down to the local level, and then the local authorities can do what's different from the state. It's like,
which is why you see these Karen exchanges at
yes.
Trader Joe's and stuff, because I think people literally do realize that if they want this to actually be enforced, you need to take it into your own hands, which sucks, but that is the reality. It's like, literally, you need to, I don't like phrasing in this way, but like, you need to shame these people for it to sink in. And it's all about like, you're infringing upon my liberties by making me wear a mask. So from the hometown that I'm in, they were doing this school board meeting to determine if we're going to full-time, half and half, or all digital. And a soccer mom from the high school that I graduated from gave this very impassioned and very Islamophobic speech about how that social distancing and specifically face masks is a pagan satanic ritual. This video is making the rounds right now on a national scale, but this is my fucking hometown. It's amazing. And my kids are Christians, so they will not be subjected to, and she was pointing out that there was a Muslim member on the board, and she was pointing at him like, we are not, she specifically calls him out and even makes very specific like Islamic phobic statements directly at him. And so that's what's like really been making it go viral. So this woman gains infamy, but then also it benefits her in that she, I believe, is the member of this group that's called Wisconsin's Against Mask Mandates. Wisconsinites against mask mandates.
Wow.
Exactly. So I found it. I found this page and I went to it, and it has 10,000 people on it, and who knows if they're all Wisconsinites, but it is a treasure trove / cesspool of some of the worst examples of humanity right now. And I have an example pulled up that I'm going to hold in front of this camera, but I'm also going to describe it from.
Okay.
Justin's like, this is not the quality that I uphold.
That's focused.
Is it still in 4K?
Yeah, so it's looking good.
No, dude, you got 1080
So
HP.
describe that.
Yeah, focus, Justin.
Okay, so it is a photo of 4 women and the years 2020, 21, 22, 23. And it shows a progression that directly says when you make women wear face masks in 2020,
Oh my God.
it turns into burqas and hijabs in 4 years, or even if it said 100 years from now.
Are you kidding me?
On so many levels.
What is wrong with people?
We got to do something to get these American women in line. Yeah,
I completely
perfect.
agree. This is what happens when you don't approach men correctly. If you don't approach men correctly, this is how we shut you up.
Happens.
That's you in 3 years,
That's
Maggie.
me in 3 years, yeah.
Just the fact that this exists and it's not a joke is horrifying. But then there's, 200 shares, 100 comments on here, and I went through and read it, and it's these people like, I had the exact same thought. Or like, it's inevitable. This is what Obama wanted. Check all these boxes.
Where's
it's so
his
insane.
passport?
Show
me his birth certificate.
So I was trying to think of a big thing in my line of work is that if someone doesn't understand a complicated concept or why a piece of misinformation that they believe, so I'm in social media.
Okay.
A lot of people, our parents' generation, who are still major decision makers in a lot of companies, truly believe that social media is free and they believe in paying $200,000 to the person who makes the decisions about their social marketing, but doesn't believe at all in spending $1 on a social platform, which in the case of like Facebook, it's a publicly traded company that's worth billions of dollars where 85% of the revenue comes from their advertising model. They very specifically and transparently say, we're giving you at best 2% organic reach, and you should fully anticipate that it will reach 0 in the near future. Like they're very openly saying like, this is not free. You can post as much as you want, but literally no one will see it, even if you're
Coca-Cola. You got to pay to play with social media.
Which that blows their minds. They're like, no, it's free. And it's like, okay, when is the last time that you made a TV commercial? And what kind of free commercials are you making? When's the last free billboard that you got, or free print ad? Or, when's the last time you spent $25,000 on your seasonal TV commercial and then went to the public access TV station and said, please air this at 3 a.m. Like that's the equivalent. Like if you don't understand that any traditional form of media that you pay for, this is not only is this the exact same thing, this is actually better because you can show
paid media now.
It's just it is what it is.
Paid media.
So when I hear something like that, I need to connect. Like me just telling you about the 2% fact and explaining that you're wrong isn't going to sink in. So I need to tie it to something that you understand to hope to connect with you. So when I saw this image, it's so, to me, and I think a lot of people, it's so blatantly wrong, right? But to just say this is wrong and you're racist and Islamophobic for posting it or liking it or sharing it or commenting or whatever, that falls on deaf ears. It doesn't do anything. What I do think would work is making a similar image, just like speaking their language. I think that that's what a lot of people fail to do, and don't try to do it in a fuck you way, but sometimes the end result is fuck you. And I was thinking that a great equivalent for this would be 2020 guy in a seatbelt. That is a federally mandated thing with big implications from imprisonment, fines, death. Yeah, there are consequences that we all agree on, or the overwhelming majority. All of our cars are equipped with it. It's just at a point where we all have seatbelts. We all use seatbelts. We understand why we use seatbelts. There was a point in time where no cars had seatbelts.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that there was a transition period pretty similar to what we're seeing with face masks that like, no, I feel free when I'm driving my Camaro, that you can't fucking shackle me. The government can't tell me to wear seatbelts, and now we wear seatbelts and no one's liberty is infracted.
It's a good comparison, actually.
It is, yeah.
So in this scenario, I would want to make a 4-panel thing where it's 2020, you're wearing a seatbelt. 2021, it's 2 seatbelts, right?
Ooh.
Overboard. 2022, instead of 2 seatbelts, it's a bandolier full of bullets. And then 2023, you have the ISIS flag behind you. Like it's that much of a jump. Is that not the exact equivalent of what this is? You're wearing a face mask for medical reasons.
I think I find what you just said a little bit more offensive.
Sure, yes,
that.
because they're not specifically saying that this woman in 2023 is a terrorist.
Right.
Okay.
You are making the claim that in 2023, or with that comparison, that we will all be terrorists.
I'm saying that the person who who allows themselves to be under the subjection
under
of federal guidelines that infringes your freedoms, that if you follow that, it's a slippery slope.
So I can see how that could get people to think.
Because it starts with a concept that we all completely accept and embrace for the most part. I'm sure there's people who like go to the corner store and don't wear the seatbelt on the way there or whatever. But like in general, there's not marches down the street or people yelling at the gas station like, fuck you, you can't get me to wear a seatbelt. This is bullshit. Fuck me, I'm protecting my liberty. there are consequences. The thing is that the consequences to a car crash, even at 35 miles per hour, where your kid gets thrown through the fucking windshield and slits his throat, is a lot more visible and documentable and tangible than you got a respiratory disease because of your negligence or someone else's negligence that took 3 weeks to incubate, and then you suffered for 2 months, and then it didn't get covered in the news because everything else sucks.
Yeah.
Like you can't sink your teeth into it as much. I don't know. I know it's a little hyperbolic, but it seems like the same.
No,
thing.
I feel you. Well, we're at an hour. Kind of want to close out with something more positive.
Okay.
What do you think about 2021? What do you hope to see? How do you hope your life to be?
That's a good question. So,
Sorry, real quick. I love your shoes.
thank you. They look like Legos,
I'm just thinking positive here.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
have to
yeah.
you have to show them.
They're pretty That's pretty great.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was on camera, but all good.
Okay. So 2020 for me, I'm looking at it as a year of opportunity. You know, we've been dealt a lot of bad shit. We're working through a lot of stuff, but we're forced to have to really look inward and figure out what the fuck do we want to do with our lives? How can I grow from all of these shitty things that have been handed for me? And for me, I think this is going to be a huge year of growth and opportunity for me. And so for 2020 or 2021, all I can do is hope for really just socialization, being able to meet more people. I love meeting new people. I love, this was our first time having a conversation.
Yeah. And now we're best friends.
And now we're besties.
And I'm going to move into the house.
Yeah,
right?
and he's going to move in as well. You can have the garage or the trampoline, whichever.
Crush.
So, I missed the connection piece for sure, but I'm really using this time to think about what I want to do with the rest of my life, what matters to me, who matters to me. That's a big learning thing of 2020 as well.
Your mammy.
I love her.
Yeah,
I love her.
I'm sure she's
but
great.
We
I'm sure
just
she's the
can't
best.
call her that anymore. We shouldn't have called her that in the first place, and I don't know why no one thought of that. Okay. But yeah, so I'm hopeful 2021 will be a year where I continue my metamorphosis, which I've always been trying to do for the last 5 years.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like
That's a
that.
great answer.
I like that.
What about you, Dave?
Me? I'm gonna plug myself if that's cool.
Yeah. I was gonna ask you.
Okay,
'cause
sure.
We never really covered your new album.
That's
but-
true. That's
Whoa,
true.
hold up. Album.
Album, yeah. I'm a huge Euro pop star.
Yes.
Big. But I live here to protect my identity.
The bus
Yes,
is coming.
exactly. I actually wrote that. Yeah. No, so 2020, the silver lining for quarantine and shelter at home has been, and we scratched the surface on this when I was on this show the first time. I think it was April.
Yeah.
I was deep into the process of working on this album, which is called The Colors of Choice, and it just came out last week. So considering that we were talking about this in April and I was working on it before April, it allowed me time to completely immerse myself in the process of creating this album. So it's 19 songs. I wrote them all. I played all the instruments and the vocals and also produced and engineered it.
Fucking
Thank
fuck
you.
it up.
It very exhausting process. It's very much so like I'm confident in my abilities and I love music and I like to share it and whatnot, but like that level of, so I live very differently than you. I live alone, don't even have a pet. So fully submerging myself in that project made me hate it. So I was like, so our friend, our KP friend of the show. And so he was kind of my like, I was like, this sounds like shit to me. I've worked on this for 70 hours, this one song, and I think it sounds like garbage and it sounds way worse than 30 hours ago. I'm ready to scrap the whole thing. Either tell me I'm right or wrong and why. Like I needed that. I basically became deaf to my own music. Everything sounded fucking awful. And I didn't even after spending so much time on it, I just got to the point where it's like, this is fucking garbage and everything sounds terrible. So I had a small support network of people who I trust for either because they're very passionate about music, but have very little technical knowledge of music. That's actually most people in terms of like the average music fan isn't like, oh man, this is that those E major scales are pretty sweet in the guitar solo. All the way up to people who are like highly proficient on an instrument or like really familiar with engineering and mastering. Like I wanted those first impression frames of reference because I was so negatively biased against myself. And specifically because of shelter at home and quarantine, I couldn't like get away from it. And then every time I wasn't working on it, like I had these awful dreams for weeks or basically anything. I was like taking an Xbox break or eating or whatever. I'm in the back of my mind. I was like, you should be working on the album. Could have been done by now. You wanted to have it done a month ago. You should cut half of it off because it fucking sucks. Like I was just swimming in this self-doubt. But I finished it, and thanks to that group of people, pushed me over the finish line. And so it is now live on all major streaming and download platforms. And so it's 19 songs. And I also did a version of the album that's strictly instrumental. Some bands do that, and I fucking love it when they do it, especially if it's a little bit more complicated music. Too. Like if Tool did that.
I knew you were gonna. How did I know you were gonna bring
I would
Tool?
fucking love it. And also, I mean, in Tool's later albums, a lot of the shit is instrumental.
Yeah.
But still, even on some like 46 and 2, like I would love to just hear the straight just from the studio instrumental version of that, just from a sonic perspective. And again, most people don't have this perspective on music. Most people will say kind of top line things like, I like the beat. These are cool lyrics, or this guy's a great singer, or this song fucking rocks. And those are all valid things, but they're not technically specific, or they're not specific to like a component of the song.
Not everyone thinks like that, though.
Sure, and that's totally fine. In fact, I'm very aware of that when I'm making songs or sharing it or trying to provide context to like what I'm sharing with you. When you remove vocals from a piece of music, there's literally, I mean, you can visually map out what a song looks like and what space it lives in and what space it doesn't live in from a frequency standpoint. When you remove vocals, not only can you hear the instruments better, but it does literally physically creates this hole in the audio file that you're listening to. And it can give you, even if you don't technically understand it, you will hear it differently. You won't just hear it as like, oh yeah, this is this song without vocals. Like it will sit with you differently. It literally is, technically speaking, a different audio file. Like if you used, what's it called? Shazam. It wouldn't register it at the same thing because it is technically not the same thing. So anyway, so I did that. I love it when my bands do that. So so technically I have 38 new pieces of music out there, and it feels really good to have that off my plate. Oh, should do this plug correctly.
Yeah. So where's the best place for
Fear of Water is the name of the band.
Okay.
The Colors of Choice is the album. I have 4 other albums that are on Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Deezer, Napster, Tidal, Amazon, literally everywhere that you would stream or download music, it is there. And then my main social media hub, I have stuff on Instagram and YouTube, but Facebook by far is the biggest hub. So it's facebook.com/fearwater. Where I'll post like behind the scenes stuff, or like I'll do Facebook Live things every week where I'll play cover songs or stuff like that.
Yeah.
A 2021 thing for me is that I plan on doing like EPs, like quarterly, or I want to do like 4 or 5 songs at a time.
Okay.
Way less exhausting.
Yeah.
Also from like, I really like to do covers and mashups and stuff. That will allow me to be more current with it. Like, oh, this song came out last month, and then I have this intention of putting out a 4 or 5 song EP in 2 months from now, as opposed to like, I'm going to do a 20 fucking song album, and it's going to take
a lot of work.
a year or something. So I'm looking forward to doing that with more regularity. I want to collaborate with more people and like tap into their social followings and vice versa. And also like I have a guest vocalist on this album. Her name's Shar Hayes, and she is this phenomenal, she's just like 4'11", sassy black woman who has a killer voice. And I found her through the Facebook Fear of Water community, kind of just like an open call, like, hey, looking for some collaborations. And a lot of people reached out to me and sent out their demos and stuff. Like this whole thing can like change the music industry and the level of collaboration, or like what touring means, or what concerts look like. Like all of this is being changed because of COVID and whatnot. Actually, real quick aside, I listened to the episode with the Israeli rocker.
Yeah.
I loved it. That episode, for anyone who hasn't listened to it, go listen to it. For me as a musician, it was like an emotional roller coaster, where part of the episode I was like, man, I miss like touring or being in a band. And then other times I was like, man, this guy's painting an awful picture of what it means to be in a band. And this sounds like good stories in retrospect, but during the time that you're living it, like, what the fuck am I doing with my life kind of thing. So, and that is a lot of what music is, but I love performing. I miss performing, but I am liking, you know, all horrible shit aside, I am liking this current version of the world of music that we're living in, and bands that you love doing these like living room shows. These
I love it.
It's really cool. It's intimate,
so
and it's like,
yes.
I think it's also going to increase a lot of the output of, you know, music is something that you can create in a time like this, as opposed to like, we're going to see this huge drought in the movie and TV industry because of just the sheer logistics of it, maybe outside of animation or something like that. But like just just what it takes and the massive people that it takes to create a movie, or even the fact that the industry that supports it outside of streaming is collapsing. AMC is considering filing for bankruptcy. Like, that's changing that whole industry. So there's going to, I don't think we've hit the gap yet because a movie is done a year before it comes out.
I've noticed a little bit. There's a lot less good movies coming out this year. It's already happening, but
for sure. Or like the new Christopher Nolan movie Tenet has got pushed back a bunch of times because it seems like they're adamant about having a theatrical experience, which I get because that dude's a master,
right?
And he wants it. He just in the same way that I don't want you to listen to my album on your fucking phone. I mixed it on $5,000 monitors. I want you to wear the headphones that you're wearing. It's like I want you to enjoy. I don't want you to drink a $800 Pinot out of an empty Coke can, you know, like, that's so same thing with that. I understand that you don't want your thing to go on Netflix and you filmed it in 4K, but the quality is going to depend on someone's internet speed. I get it.
Come watch it here.
Exactly.
I love your entertainment
Chateau
setup.
Justin.
So good. But conversely, I do think that we're going to see, and we already are seeing, a huge influx of music being created, not just because of the time, but like for a lot of people, that's their income. So like they can't tour, and they're figuring out solutions to that. They're really pushing merch really hard, which even when they do tour is a way that a lot of bands make most of their money to begin with. But just, creating more music, and I'm all for that, and I want to be a part of it. I want to increase my my output and do it collaboratively. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
All right. Maggie, Dave, it was great. You guys made good rapport with each other. It was a good combination of guests to have
very
on.
behooved you to have us both on together.
So you're welcome.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both.
Thank you.
Good to be here.
See you.
See you.
This is so much better.
So fun.
Than sitting on the beanbag and holding the mic. It's so much more legit. Yeah.